Welcome back, Crypto Trend Trader with a quick update on Bitcoin. But before we get started, I'd like to remind you it's not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. These markets are extremely volatile, so please do your own research and trade responsibly. Alright, so here we have the Bitcoin chart. I'm on the 4-hour Coinbase chart right now. And anybody that knows my basic moving average strategy knows that we are at a pivotal point in the market right now. Because as you can see on the 4-hour, which is the most credible short time frame, we are about to get that 10 and 21 cross. We came down below it, dragged the 10 down, and now we essentially just came back up. And what we like to see is a pushback above it, and then a rejection, and then close back below it, and that essentially like confirms that we are now going to go into a short-term downtrend, at least on the 4-hour. Which, as you can see, we went into the uptrend on the 4-hour back here on the 26th. And that would be basically like over a week that we've been in that little uptrend since that cross now. So what we could expect is something similar in nature. And as you can see, if you do that on like an hourly time frame or something like that, it's not going to be nearly as reliable because you're going to get a lot of chop like back and forth. But if you start doing it on like a 4-hour or whatever, that's how you can end up in a like long and trending trade. And if we switch over to a longer time frame, you'll see that essentially what we're looking to happen is to come down here. We already have tested the 10 once. We're looking to come down here and test that 21,200. So what I would expect to happen is essentially us to come down to that 8,900 at some point in time and just break back down, find support at our breakout point at that key moving average, and then the market can decide where it wants to go from there. So if we get our continuation, we can move to the upside and put in a new high. But everybody knows that the daily is starting to look exhausted here. We are getting divergence, which essentially is our high over here, and then we got a higher high over here. But if we go down to the jewel thief, you'll see that the blue came up to a high right here, and we came up to a lower high right here. So essentially what's that saying is it took us more energy or less energy to get the price up higher, which is not what you want to see. Essentially that's going to like lead to buyer exhaustion and then like a strong sell-off. Doesn't mean we have to come down here and do anything bad to price action. It just means that like the short-term like trend is exhausted. And then if we switch over to we obviously just got our weekly and our monthly close. This is basically like worst case scenario for us because it's like indecision from the market, which you don't want to see like indecision at a key resistance the same way you don't want to see like indecision at a key support. You want to see like a very strong move like from the market confirming that we're going to break it. Otherwise, you should just assume that it's going to resistance going to continue being resistance and support's going to continue being support. And essentially what we did right here is we came back up and then we closed the week just below this previous weekly like swing high right here. So everybody and their mom is like looking at this and saying, okay, if we can get above this, we close above that point, that's confirmation of a higher swing, and then we can essentially like move up from there. So we have a swing low, we have a swing high, we have a higher swing low, and then we could go up if we could get a higher swing high on this. But not only have we not confirmed this as a swing high, we could still push up here, or we could sell off at this point in time, and we failed to create a swing high. So again, that's just like complete indecision from the market. Basically, it just means that if you're looking at the weekly time frame, you have another week of indecision. In which case, like in that time, price could essentially pump all the way up to like that 10.5 range, or it could sell back off to that 8,500 range, and you get like no essentially like resolution on this. Basically just be a week from then, and then who knows what's going to happen at that point. So essentially the market makers and people in charge, the whales out there, are painting the charts in an extremely deceptive manner. I definitely think this is very intentional because it's going to essentially create this point where it's a clear pivot on the market now for us to either pivot to the upside and then enter an uptrend, or pivot back to the downside, and now essentially like this is just distribution that's been taking place, and it was basically just like a huge fake out. And again, I'm not saying that's what happened, but at this point in time, we don't know which one has happened because we got basically no resolution. And as far as the monthly goes, we got a strong close on the monthly, but we essentially just closed right here at that same spot again. And if you look at it on the monthly, we don't have that same swing. You're not going to get a swing high off that monthly in the same way. Okay, you get a swing low off of it down here, you get a swing high of it up here, but this is nothing essentially on the monthly. That makes no difference either way. So if we came up here and kept coming up, unless we take out on the monthly with a close of 10.9, that doesn't really mean anything. It's essentially just like a bounce off of that 21 moving average on the monthly, and which you would expect to happen. The first time we come down to that, I would expect for it to happen for sure. And even in this case scenario, we got above it, closed above it, and then we sold back off below it. We got above it, closed above it. So it's not unrealistic to think that we could still sell back off, back down all the way to the 21 at like the 7,300 range in this or in the next couple months, and then continue on back down to the downside, and essentially test this 50 or 55 week on a longer time frame in the 5,000 range. And again, I'm not trying to be overly bearish, but let's keep in mind on the monthly, the blue crossed back over, and we have a negative slope on the blue. So we are still in a monthly downtrend officially. And as far as the weekly is concerned, the weekly is strengthening to the upside, which is definitely good. We did get the cross. Regardless of my own personal bias or view on the market, the Jewel Thief absolutely nailed the top and the bottom right here. So if you're trading the Jewel Thief, man, beautiful. And if you look at the long-term time frames also, you'll notice that the moving average strategy, where they crossed here at the 10 and 21 cross on the weekly, you would have sold right before that dump, and then you'll see now 10 and 20 are 10 and 21 are crossing back over, which very often what will happen is you'll get the retest down here, and if that retest holds, we'll get the continuation to the upside, which perfectly aligns with the golden cross and all that stuff that everybody's talking about, because all these moving averages are essentially just the same. It's just on different time frames when people are talking about all this stuff. And then switching back down to the 4-hour, what we would expect to happen here is essentially on the shorter time frames, this to get rejected, us to sell back down, come and test the 50-55, and then eventually make our way down to the 89 and back down to that 9,050 range. And then from there, hopefully find that support and then get continuation to the upside. But typically, obviously this 10 and 21 cross to the downside is not a good thing. And if we take out our low that's been holding us up at 91.39, who knows? We're either going to come down to that 9,000 range or back down to 8,600 and test the 200 on the shorter time frame. So, and there we have on the TJD, TD MACD, we're losing the slope. The blue is getting ready to turn to red, and even if we get a couple green histograms here, it would have to come all the way back up and get back on top of the blue in order to get this back going. So at this point in time, unless we see a massive move to the upside, which is very unlikely, because to me, as soon as I see this candle come up here like that and get rejected, that's a massive rejection from the market and a huge fake out. That was a spring to the upside, and then we're going to get continuation the opposite direction typically, and then probably a big candle equivalent to that, but a big red one. So, and then obviously market's going to stop stop being so bullish. I'm hearing everybody extremely bullish, and again, this is just not the time to be saying we're in a bull run, go all in, 5x leverage, and just forget about it. I'm hearing just absolute craziness from these people, and I hope you're not listening. I like to think that our community is smarter than that. So there you have it, guys. Crypto Trend Trader with a quick update on Bitcoin. Again, I don't want to be bearish. I want to be bullish, but I'm a trader first and foremost, and my number one most important thing is protecting my principal and growing my capital. And as much as I believe in Bitcoin and love it and crypto and all these things, I'm in this space to make money. Not to be the guy who dies on the shield of Bitcoin. So if we're going to get continuation to the downside and potentially put in another swing low here, I'm not just going to hold and hodl like some people do and hope and wish and pray. I'm going to trade and continue to grow my stack, grow my Bitcoin, so that when the bull market does actually get confirmed, and it is here, and we are moving to the upside for a long trending move, I'm on the right side of it, and I got a fat stack of Bitcoin ready to grow. So there you have it, guys. Crypto Trend Trader, and I'm out of here.